before 1850, doctors had been advising the use of flannel underclothing. The woolen vest and underpants worn next to the skin would sometimes be joined to form combinations, patented in 1862 and commonly worn until the 1880s. The shirt changed very little. Frilling finally disappeared completely by the 1860s. The fronts were plain, stiffly starched, and fastened with decorative studs. By the 1890s, many elderly men continued to wear the high collars with points projecting onto their cheeks, fashionable in their youth. During the 1850s and 1860s, colored shirts might have been worn by working-class men, but gentlemen still usually wore white. French printed cambrics were accepted for informal wear by the 1860s. In the 1890s, stripes in blue or pink were accepted with frock coats if the collar was white. The frock coat remained the basic style for formal day wear. During the 1870s to 1880s, the morning coat. Low-waisted, single-breasted, its skirt cut away at the front, rivaled the frock coat, but the latter returned to favor in the 1890s, and by the turn of the century, these two coats were correct for formal day wear. Popular in the 1880s and adopted by women was the Norfolk jacket, single-breasted, buttoned high, with box pleats down the front and large patch pockets on the hips. Waistcoats were cut as in the earlier part of the century, though during the 1870s they could hardly be seen under the high buttoned coats. During the 1870s, trouser legs were of equal width at the knee and ankle, but getting progressively tighter until the end of the century. Men wore their hair fairly short throughout the latter part of the 19th century. From the late 1860s to the 1890s, most men wore facial hair of some kind. Sideburns were allowed to grow further down the face into mutton chops. Full beards covering the chin and combined with mustaches were cut many different ways. By the late 1880s and the 1890s, a clean-shaven face was coming back into fashion, but many older men continued to wear a beard or mustache well into the new century. The tall silk or top hat continued for formal day and evening wear. The opera hat, covered in corded silk, also continued for visiting the theater because it could be folded flat and put under the seat. Bowler hats were worn starting in 1860. From the 1870s, an increasing number of hats were considered appropriate for informal wear, like the Homburg, the Boater, and the Deerstalker,